afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us, our weekly Mississippi Farm Bureau press conference. I hope everybody had a great Thanksgiving. We're going to go start with our winter sports teams now, starting off with our Lady Statesman basketball team, who are off to a 7-3 start, 3-1 in conference play, currently on a 3-game winning streak after defeating Auburn Montgomery 77-66 last Saturday. So without further ado, I'll have head coach Tracy Stortland come up, give opening comments, and then answer all your questions.
Thank you, Braden. At this point, I think, gosh, the semester has flown by. We've rolled into conference play and start out on the road and tough competition in Union, but I think just from non-conference rolling into conference, this group has learned from each game, whether it was a win or a loss, and so I'm really pleased about that. And again, we've not played our best basketball, but the improvement is there. And again, this group is coming together, still learning each other and learning how to play with each other. But the chemistry is starting to show, and very pleased. Obviously, with last week, we had a good week, and stretching into now no finals and have a week of basketball without classes. Be kind of nice, and hopefully they're not looking ahead to Christmas break too early. They're excited about it, but they know they've got some business to take care of. So we're excited to keep playing, get back on the practice floor, and get better this week. And we'll have a very tough road trip to West Alabama first up. So pleased with this group. Lots of areas that we still can improve on, and again, that kind of keeps us excited and energized as well. Still thought we would kind of be deeper coming in this year, and each week we're trying to figure out, well, how deep are we? And again, you find that out in practice and trying to see which players can, again, just step in and be consistent in their roles. And there's all those things are going on with everybody, but we're certainly, having a good time with this group, just seeing the growth with the returners and starting to kind of get in a rhythm and get in a groove. So take any questions that anybody might want to throw out.
This past weekend, talking about depth, and I know we may have touched on this weekend. Against Montevallo, you had 4 double-digit scores. Against AUM, you had 3 double-digit scores, and I think 4 more between 7 to 9 points. Just talk about how they're kind of embracing your ideas and concepts and just the flow of the game, because it seemed like that was on display very well this weekend.
We felt, when we fell short, maybe in one of the earlier games, or even we had success and just our offense wasn't where we wanted it to be, we knew that it was coming, and we knew that there were so many players that can help us push that offense up, and just really want to keep growing on the defensive end, because we know night in and night out defensive rebounding is going to put us in a good spot. But all that being said, just saw that coming, just continuing to encourage those kids to see where their offense can come from in our in our transition and in our half court, and I just feel like they're starting to see that and feel more comfortable, and again, share the ball. And when you get defensive stops, it gives you so many more opportunities on the run. And I thought our pace and our tempo was much better the last few games, and that certainly helps everything. And starting to hit shots, and that the confidence starts to grow. So, got a few more kids I feel like just haven't got. They just kind of haven't got they hadn't got going yet, and it's coming. Real proud of Awal. She's had a couple back-to-back good games. She had gotten a little slowed a little bit with a quad injury, and so trainers got her back on track, and she feels good. And again, we just know we've got a lot of offense over there and got a lot of good players, and we just need them to all be ready and be ready in practice and have those competitive practice, so that when we step out against these Gulf South opponents, they're ready to go, and they come through depending on what we need that night.
One thing, looking at Grace Watson's game, I know she's done a good job of scoring, and I know she's done a good job of rebounding, but I also noticed she's had some good assist totals as well. Talk about her, just her overall development what are some of the things that she does well, and what are some of the things that she's really gotten better at?
Gosh, she does a lot of things well. I think she's gotten a lot more aware of doubles. I say that, we were doubled this past week. And again, she's always looking to kick out. She's very unselfish. And of course, earlier, I guess when I first got here, I thought she was too unselfish. We have to remind her at times, hey, go to the basket, go to the rim. The double is slow to develop, and we want her to look to score first. So I definitely think her assists have been there and continue to improve. But I think really just her being engaged. She's engaged in film. She's engaged in practice. She's engaged not just for her and her position, offense and defense, but she's kind of now developed into, hey, how can I help anyone on the court or when she's on the bench. She's just very engaged, and that's what you want from a senior. It's certainly what you want from a leader. Really proud of her development and growth as a defender. I see her going for blocks less. She's been a little bit more disciplined in the post, and that's kept her on the floor, and we need that.
And Mackenzie Hill, I've noticed this past week she had some assists, had a lot of steals, and it seems like she's really kind of come on as of late.
Well, we put her, we're starting a freshman, Brylan Finley, who was doing a really good job, super talented. We're excited about Brylan and what she's going to do for this program. Just felt like, again, we went through a stretch where we just kind of needed an experience there and thought that could help on both ends. It could help Mackenzie, it could help our team, but it could also help Brylan coming off the bench, just kind of getting a feel as they don't know the returners from these other Gulf South teams. But I thought Mackenzie just made good decisions. I mean, she just really came in. It's what you want from a point guard that knows what's needed at that time. And so they don't need a lot of play calling from me at times. We can talk about that in practice. We can have our preparation. We can talk about schemes and philosophies of what we think we can get. But at that moment, I think she's just been making some really good decisions on where the ball needs to go and, what play needs to be called and made good decisions from there. She's attacked when she needed to attack and has done did a really great job of finishing. But also she's looking to push tempo, and that's what we were getting from Brylan. We feel like we can get that from any of our guards, and she just really kind of settled us the last few games.
How much are kind of like some of your sophomores on the team, some of your younger players? How much positives have they learned from the senior bunch?
I just think our seniors, I've seen that from the beginning. They just reach out to them, and you don't always get that. You want that, and you hope for that, and you talk about it. But this group is doing that every day, and they did it in preseason, and and again, sometimes it's just a little casual conversation, and you'll walk over and they're getting advice, and it's really, really nice to see, because that this group of kids, they're a great group to get advice from, and it's going to come from a really positive place, and they're very experienced, and they care about those younger kids, and I think that again, this group has done a great job of just kind of embracing each other and stepping in to help one another on both ends. Our freshmen, they're very bouncy, they're very energized and energetic, and that's been good for our upperclassmen. And then our upperclassmen have kind of put their arms around and kind of called those younger ones their little sisters. And so we're coming together, and I like what I see from that, and I love that they are developing those relationships, very positive relationships, and that certainly helps you on the court.
And just kind of looking at the schedule this weekend, if I'm not mistaken, Livingston Thursday and Huntsville Saturday.
Correct.
Talk about those two teams and just how tough those two places can be to play.
Well, Livingston has been a very tough place for us to play. We've always been their second, so I'm hoping just kind of a change up in order. will be a good thing for us. But that team in particular are very intact. I mean, they've got a lot of their returners, really talented players. They can put it on the floor. They've got pull-up jumpers. They've got three-point shooters, and they're they've got post back that can give you problems. So our half-court defense is going to have to be really, really strong, but transition as well. I mean, they push it, they get it. Everybody wants easy baskets, so they certainly spread you there and try to create some open opportunities. If there's any type of disorganization in our transition defense, they'll make us pay in a lot of different ways. But also their defense is very strong. Again, what you hope is that your players will just kind of take the game as is. It's the next one. It's a conference game. All of those things are really, really important here to finish the season out or the semester out strong. And they don't look at records because this group is really good. They've had a lot of close games, and they're very talented, and we're going to have to play really, really well, certainly on the front end, and we'll worry about the second one later. But Huntsville's off to a great start. They're just that's what I know. The new coach, a lot of significant players for them. They have a lot of new players, but their significant scorers and rebounders are back. And they're off to a great start, and they've had some great wins. So, that's what we know. We're focused on West Alabama.
In terms of closing out the 24 part of your season, how important is that to finish on a high note going into the 25 part of your schedule?
I think it's so important. I think how you start and how you finish, just is really, really important. Then you talk to your kids about coming out after halftime and how you start that. So I have seen a bit of pattern with this team, though, and they have been, for the most part, pretty consistent in that. So I feel good about that. That being said, I've not been with this group at Christmas break. So we went through finals. I thought it was a bit of a struggle, to be honest with you. The practice engagement, intensity, focus wasn't what I expected it to be. But at the end of the day, these, they're 18, 20, 22. I guess we've got some on the high end. But we got it done. So I feel good that we'll have a lot. We can look at what we did well, and we've got a lot of good things to look ahead to in terms of this week of to be successful. And I think this group will take on the challenge, and I think they'll finish strong. I think it's important to them. Again, I think I'll go back to what he brought up earlier, and that was experience and seniors and juniors. I think they have set a pretty good tempo throughout since they got on campus. And if we've had some days where it kind of wasn't at the level I wanted it to be, that our seniors kind of stepped up and were more vocal and tried to set a better tone intensity-wise, and I think that will happen for us this week. I think we'll have a good preparation, and that'll help us have a chance to go down there and be successful and finish out strong Saturday, and then we have a bonus one on Sunday.
And in terms of being 3-1 right now in the conference, are you ahead of schedule, on schedule? How would you rate the position right now?
Well, I don't know if it's ahead. I don't know if it's on schedule. I guess it's on schedule. I don't know that we'd be ahead of schedule. I think it's on schedule. I think we had a really parts of our game at Union we had a really good contest. We followed the game plan. We executed the game plan. And then there were parts where we'll, dissect at a, later point, because when you have to bounce back from that game and get ready for a Saturday game while you're on the bus, part of that, and finishing up your last week of classes, that kind of gets lost in the translation, and then you got to move on. But so I think we're on schedule. If I got to pick one of those, I think we're on schedule. We lost to a really good team at Union, and then we've held on the road, and then come back home and held. So but you got to be good on the road, and we got to win on the road, and we have not done that in league yet. So that's what we're searching for, and so that's what we'll be talking about and preparing for. And I think this group will step up to the challenge. I feel, and I know that we can. We just gotta take care of the things that we need to take care of on the court, and we got to get better every day. And we've got 3 days to do that.
International makeup of your team. You have players kind of from all different parts of the world, but I don't know if you can, off the top of your head, kind of go through where they're from, those players.
I'm not going to go into cities, but I will, I'll just throw out. Of course, Martina was here last year from Poland, and we have added a young lady from Latvia, a young lady from Great Britain. We've added a young lady from Spain, and then also a young lady from Greece. So that's what we've added. And, I've been asked about that a lot. It wasn't really necessarily, hey, we're going to go do this. It wasn't, it was just kind of a situational, as you talk to, coaches that you're familiar with or that you saw at junior college jamborees. Most of these kids were already in the U.S. playing at junior colleges. So, some of them were contacts that we had from coaches that we had either coached against or recruited from and, just had conversations with them. And then you look at their skill set and abilities and see if they can help your team in any way at that moment and see where to go from there. But, the one young lady that was our freshman from Latvia. So that was a little bit a little bit of a luck. I think she's really talented. They are all talented and bring different things to our team. But it's really, really been fun for our group to learn from them, about their countries. So that was that was a big bonus that we didn't think a lot about as we recruited them, but certainly have enjoyed it, and they're great young ladies, and I think they're enjoying the Delta.
And in terms of just the educational part of it, as you mentioned, learning from the different cultures, different backgrounds, do you sense that maybe that's even brought your team even closer together, the fact that you have so diversified of a team?
I think so. I mean, I hope it has. I hope that's played a part in it. But, whether we were all from Mississippi or all from any state, I would hope that we could do that no matter what. Each year it's going to be really different from here on out probably. But I do think it's added something, that we've never experienced. And I did hear Grace Watson. I will say one of the things that we did a team building weekend, and she mentioned that she now on her list of bucket list, she's too young for bucket list, but I guess maybe not, but she wants to visit each of those countries, specifically where those teammates are from. So I think that's pretty cool. So that she's she's enjoying them. They're really good teammates to one another, and we're really happy about that. I hope so. I think so. They seem to be adjusted. It always takes a transfer some time, no matter where they are, or big to small, small to big, and certainly from another country, that's a whole different category of adjustments. But I think they have, and I think they've done a great job. Again, the returners that have done a great job of kind of helping that, hopefully helping that go a little smoother. Thank y'all.
Thank you, Coach. Up next is our men's basketball program. They're off to a 6-4 start this season, 2-2 in conference play. They had a big win Saturday against Auburn Montgomery, 92-80, where senior point guard Chris Terrell scored 42 points, which is the most points scored in any player so far this season in the Gulf South Conference. Another thing the men's basketball program has right now, they're leading the nation in turnover margin, which right now is 9.8. They're averaging 9.8 in a game. So without further ado, I'll bring up head coach Mike Nienaber.
Appreciate it. That national thing is something we picked up on last week, a week and a half, and that's a big thing about how we're playing and how we've been playing. We started doing this last year. We really made a radical change in the style of play last year, and we're continuing to work on that. And basically, those that follow us know we're pressing 110% full court the full game. Every time the ball's taken out of bounds, we are in 100% full denial, and we're causing a lot of turnovers. And the good thing for us, for the most part, we're not committing a lot. So that's the thing we're leading the country in. And if you look at the list of the top 12 teams in that stat, and I told our guys this, like 7 or 8 of them are like in the top 15 in the country. And of course, we're not there yet. But the thing I've said to our guys is that tells you we're doing one thing at a very high level. We've got to pick up a couple areas of a couple other key areas of our game to try to move to the next level with that. But what we're doing defensively has been very effective. And again, part of that equation too, if you cause 23, 24 turnovers and you're committing 19 or 20 yourself, you're not really gaining anything. But I think a lot of that, you mentioned Chris with the scoring, a lot of that is about Chris being our quarterback too, is we don't turn it over a lot. So, when you get at the end of the game and you cause 20 plus turnovers and you have less than 10, that's where the bonus is. Now, a couple of games, our offense is really where we've got to get better. And, and our shooting percentages, Saturday was great. Was one of the best we've done all year. We were close to 50% from 3. And, in the game, that's another thing. There's so many things that are changing now in the game. The 3-point shot, of course, that's been around for a long time. But I think the approach to the 3-point shot has really changed radically in the last 10 years or so. And, and I think it's filtered down from the NBA, with the success of Golden State and these teams that really shoot it well. And, and my assistant John Redmond's always up on this stuff. He'll come in and go, they shot 73s in the Celtics game last night and stuff. It's just crazy when you see how much teams are depending on. But again, it's the numbers. And, we talk all the time about guys, you don't need to be taking shots that are, you don't need to be taking shots with your foot on the line. And, long twos are the worst shots in basketball now. And, so you got to be aware. I tell guys, you got to know where the lane is so you don't get 3 seconds, which they don't call anymore. But, you got to, what kids do a lot now, because when they extended the 3-point line, what you see happening a lot now is guys stepping out of bounds when they've got the corner 3, because there's not that much room over there. So you got to work on that to make sure because that's the closest 3, but it's also the one that people tend to, if they're not paying attention, they could easily step out. So, but that's been a good thing. We've had, where we are right now, it's, we're disappointed by, we've lost a couple of games at home that we didn't do. We took better care of business at home last year early. And, you're playing different level, different teams. The game Thursday night was really disappointing. Montevallo's playing great, though. They're 4-0 in the league, and they've got a really good offensive team, and they handled our press better than anybody has all year. And I give them credit for that. I didn't feel like our intensity was where it should be. And when Tracy was talking about it, I've thought about it all over the years. Some of my flattest games that I've had teams play over the years are those home games during exams. I always felt like in my years in Memphis at CBU, when we were on the road during exams, we were better. Because when we were playing on the road, we had to take care of the exams before we went on the road. So we weren't dealing, when you're at home, you go ahead and take your exams when you have your exams. So you're leading up to it and you're practicing and, you're setting your practice schedules around. And guys, say, well, I got one at 4 o'clock today and I got one, but they're taking them, and they're trying to get papers done and whatever. And I think we're just a little bit flatter. I've seen that over the years. That's one thing I always usually glance at the beginning of the year and say, we're going to be home during exams. And I didn't give it a lot of thought going into the week, but we were really flat Thursday night. And the other thing that enters in, and it happened in the Union game, the 2 conference games that we lost, we didn't score well. And when we're not scoring, we're not getting our press set. You got to make a basket to really get that denial. Now, we're trying to do some pressing even when we don't score. We have some stuff that we talk about and what we do to try to attack the offensive rebounder. But, it's obviously it's a lot easier, a lot more effective to press off a made basket than off, than your opportunities off a miss. So but I'll open it up for questions.
Chris, I know he was a great player for you last year, and I know he's continued that. But with his 42-point effort, and I know he was your leading scorer the previous night, and in that 42-point effort, he went to the line a lot. Just talk about how his game is evolving.
I don't know if I could say it's evolved. Chris is a great player when he got here, So, I mean, Chris is, and I don't say these kind of things lightly. You guys know I've been doing this a long time. I can't think of a better point guard that I've had in 40 years of coaching. I've had some that I'd put in his category, but Chris he's special, and he, along with his ability to score, he had a couple games last year, I think, when we beat Mississippi College here, and they've got a great point guard, great player, leading scorer in the conference. Chris didn't score a point that night, and I thought he was he literally 0 points that night. The guy that scored 42 Saturday, last year here against Mississippi College, he scored 0 points, and he was the most valuable player because of what he did defensively guarding that kid. So again, what he does and what he does for our press, and honestly, I told him after Thursday's game, you're always pushing him for a little bit more. I told him, I said, Chris, I didn't feel like I didn't think his presence in our press was as effective. So he may have been a little sluggish or something. I mean, he rarely, he's one, and when you're pressing like we are, you always feel like you got to get him some time on the bench. But Chris is he's like the Energizer Bunny. He just keeps going. I mean, he rarely, he's flying up and down the floor the same way with 5 minutes to go in the game as he is the first 5 minutes. And so he's kind of the heart and soul of what we do on both ends of the floor.
How much do other players kind of learn from him? Because a guy like that not only has the ball as much as he does, but he knows how to take care of the ball himself. How much of an example does he set?
Well, he creates, and again, that's, good players make the players around them better. And there's a lot that he does there as far as, getting us into offense, and when he penetrates, kicking it, because when he drives, he's creating shots around him. We've got several players that do that are capable of driving, and we work on that, and we're trying to. That's something we got to get better at. The game at Union, I thought our offense was terrible, and we didn't move the ball. There was a lot of standing around. There's a lot of ball stopping, and when we're moving players and moving the ball, I mean, it's not as pure Princeton as some of my teams from 10 years ago, but it's taken on a different form. And, it's adjustments that I've had to make, but it's still about movement, player movement, ball movement, and spacing, which is what it's always about in offense. And that, we're getting better. And I felt like the Montevallo game was the first game this year that it was more of our defense. I think we scored 80 points that night. So our offense was not dysfunctional that night. That was the worst night for us defensively, I felt like, all year. And that was the only night where the turnovers were about the same. I think we each had about 9 or 10. We didn't have a lot of turnovers. We didn't cause them. We didn't force the turnovers that night, and that was a real problem.
You touched on Chris as far as his defensive prowess. He leads GSC. I don't know where he ranks in the country as far as steals right now.
You're right. He's up there.
Seen a player that can be one of the top scorers in the GSC as well as one of perhaps the top defenders.
And again, it's special. I think in the country he's in the top 10. So again, he's doing a phenomenal job, and and he is a leader, like you asked about. I mean, he is well liked by his teammates, and the thing about Chris that and I talk to our guys in general about this. Rarely do you come in there and Chris isn't smiling. I mean, it's like I tell, that's what the kind of people I want to be around. I don't want, some guys are just, suck the energy out of, energy vampires. They come in and you just, Chris is bubbly. That energy that he brings to the court, he brings to just about everything he does. Now, sometimes it almost goes off the deep end with, but the nature and the way I am too is you come to our practice, there's going to be some laughing. We're going you want to be about business and take care of business and stuff, but I always tell you, if something funny happens, we're going to laugh. And if there's something to be happy about, we're going to be happy, and and then try to refocus as quickly as possible and get back to business. But Chris is he's just bubbly. He's a positive force, and and again, we got a lot of good kids, but Chris is clearly, obviously, having a special year right now, and we depend on him a lot.
Do you remember, in terms of your first contact with him, in terms of recruiting, how far back does that go?
Well, we saw Meridian. He was at the junior college. We were aware of him in high school, but we saw him in junior college and had heard about him. And when we went down, and I'll be honest with you, we saw him play, and they won the state that year and won the region and wound up going to Hutch. And honestly, I felt like when they went to Hutch, it was going to be difficult for us to get him. We felt like he was our number one target coming out that year. I think he was the best player on that JUCO team. He was the best player on the best team in the state. And usually when those guys go to Kansas, it doesn't turn out well for Division IIs. And I think that we probably benefited from the new nature of the land. There's the big schools are in that transfer portal so hard now. What we're seeing across the board is high school kids and junior college guys are not being recruited the way they were 5 years ago. You don't have to go back 10 for that. 5 years ago, and I see that all the time with kids that go, and that's a kid that would have been Division I 5 years ago, and now he's D2 or NAIA because they're all in the transfer portal, and and we're all suffering some and. That you can get some kids, but then if you get a really good freshman, there's chances. We had, we're going places. Well, this weekend when we go to West Al, it'll be the third time this year we're going against somebody that's on the roster that was here. That we worked with them their freshman and sophomore year, and now they're playing for somebody else. And the thing that's really rough now is they can go and they can go. Used to be at least they'd have to sit a year, and especially within conference they had to sit a year, and now. Montevallo, Derek Moore did a great job. He's a good player. We didn't want to lose him. He got a chance. He got to go closer to home, and it's like I said, we worked with him his freshman and sophomore year, and he got a lot of good experience and playing time behind Malik, and now, you feel like, and that's frustrating because that's something, and I've talked to a lot of coaches friends that I've been with, coaching with and against for a long time. Lenny Acuff, who had all those great years at Huntsville, and his program was very similar to the way mine was at CBU, and we talked about it last spring. The way we develop teams, you can't do it anymore. When I was at CBU, we had, I think, 6 or 7 guys in those 20 years that were freshmen of the year in the Gulf South Conference, and those guys that were freshmen of the year for me, they were all conference players for me by the time they were juniors and seniors, and oftentimes all region and a couple times all Americans. Well, the Gulf South Conference freshman of the year now, 9 times out of 10, the last couple of years, they're gone. They have a great freshman year, and again, I can't, it's the way it is. I don't blame if I'm in a D1 school that's kind of a mid-major or a lower mid-major, whatever you want to name it, and you can get the best freshman in the Gulf South Conference, he's probably going to be better than most of the guys you can sign out of high school. And that's just the nature of the beast now. You get a sophomore that's second team all Gulf South, things like that. It's the way it is, and we're all having to kind of roll with the punches and try to work it out. But that makes it tough. But on the other hand, too, we got Chris Terrell. We're getting some Mississippi junior college kids have obviously played a really big part and where we've gotten better in the last year and a half.
This weekend on the road, West Alabama.
Yeah.
This
hasn't been good for us since I've been here. And of course, Huntsville honestly hasn't been good for me since forever. You know, it's a tough road trip. You know, and you're playing two teams that are Huntsville. If they're not, Huntsville should be in the top 5 in the country. I think they were number 12 last week. They're going to be a lot higher on. They're a lot higher on my rating, my poll. They have one loss. They lost to Nova Southeastern the first game of the year in overtime. That's their one loss, the number 1 team in the country in overtime, and somehow they're only number 12. Now I think they'll be in the top 10 this week. So by the time we get there Saturday, they're going to be a top 10 team in the country. West Al has been very good, and that has been a tough place the last few years. We've let a couple of games get away there that we had, but so those have been. It's a rough way to finish, but it's one of those that we're playing pretty good when we've got our defense clicking and things. So, you just got to go get them. You take them one at a time. All those old coaching speak things. But it's a tough weekend for us. Now, the positive side is as we go into Christmas, we'll have played 6 conference games, 4 of them on the road. We come back home after Christmas. The schedule will be a little more favorable, and we'll have a lot of our toughest road games out of the way. And, some of the teams right now that Union's undefeated, that was a tough road loss. I didn't think we played I think that was probably the worst game we've played all year. It was terrible offensively. But, again, that's an undefeated in the league team on the road. Montevallo's playing really well and played very well against us, and now we're going to play these 2 on the road. That's 4 of the toughest games in the league that we're going to knock out. And, and again, if we're at 500, we could get one of these 2. You hate to say this because, we need to win Saturday. We need to win Thursday. And we've played bad the last 2 Thursdays. We need to win. We need to play well Thursday night and get that one. And then we can go to Huntsville with house money. So hopefully that's what we're looking at. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Coach Nienaber. Pace Clark right now, swimming and diving, has their home meet over at the Ronald G. Mayer, so he cannot make today's press conference. But I'll go this week's events. Obviously, right now we got the men's and women's swimming and diving team hosting their Delta State Christmas meet today and tomorrow. The men's basketball and women's basketball teams go on the road this week, as the men and women will face West Alabama Thursday night and follow it with a road trip up to Huntsville to face Alabama-Huntsville. The women's team will also play Sunday and on the road in an exhibition game against Arkansas State in Jonesboro. That game, I believe, is at 2 o'clock. It'll be on ESPN+. That's what we got this week. Thank you all for joining us today. Hope you guys all have a Merry Christmas and a Happy Holidays. And as always, go Statesman.
I like the background with all the banners, whatnot. Okay.